Not the obvious ones like not having changing stations in the men's restroom or being seen as creepy for taking your children to the park or babysitting your children. What are some uncommon gender double standards with parenting you would not know unless you were a father? Story 1. Thankfully, my daughter is well past diapers. On one occasion, I had to take her into a men's restroom in a grocery store to change her. They were using the changing table as a cleaning chemical supply shelf. It was filthy with leaking bottles everywhere. I took photos and complained to corporate. They made sure to fix it and sent me an apology. Story 2. I am a white 20-year-old. I started having significant childcare duties at 9. I am now simply an overly involved uncle instead of an overworked big brother. My big sister has Asian kids, so let's get the basics over with. When I need to pick up my nieces or nephews and there is a new lady at the desk, they will inevitably look at my ID on their system, compare it with my physical ID, then call my sister even though I am cleared on their system already. Admittedly, this is probably more because I am a white 20-year-old and my nieces and nephews are Chinese passing 3, 6, and 8. It also becomes a problem when I need to console or move with them in public and they pull the stranger card. I attended playgroup like daycare. The mothers did not speak to me once. To be fair, I was 13, but also isn't that more reason? My father cooked and cleaned growing up. My mother got the compliments for it. Whenever it is Mother's Day or Father's Day, there are no things either my father or mother wanted because they were almost the antithesis of the stereotypes. Once, when I was in public with a younger cousin, essentially my baby at that point due to issues, he needed formula. An older woman in the parent room said that I was poisoning him. I know women who can't or don't breastfeed get that a lot too. But it's really annoying when the only way you can feed a baby gets compared to killing them. Once my niece needed to pee, and the McDonald's worker didn't let me take her into the bathroom. That is somewhat understandable but a rare occurrence which resulted in me needing to buy her new clothes and carry around drenched pants in a shopping bag for hours. Story 3. Uncommon? The only experience I had as a step-parent that struck me as truly odd was with a woman I met while shopping. I was having my child browse the toy aisle. A woman made a friendly comment about how my child kept going from toy to toy, picking them up and discarding them. She asked me, "Why don't you just buy him something he likes?" Oh wait, don't you know what he likes? As a father, I should automatically know what toys my child is interested in. He is 2 years old. He is like a cat. I can buy him the best toy in the world, and he is going to play with the box more than the toy. Story 4. My wife and I were in different graduate programs at the same time. If our children ran around in the Zoom background or talked to her, nothing really happened. But if they ran around or climbed on me, everyone would say I am the best dad ever. This seriously happened every time. I even had a female cohort member who joined Zoom from the maternity ward because she had just given birth the day before during the COVID-19 era, and the entire group was like, okay. Story 5. I called the school to inform them I would be picking up my son early. When I arrived, they took my identification and left the lobby. After a few minutes, they returned and told me I could go to his classroom to get him, which confused me. On the way home, I received a call from my wife saying the school had called her to ask if I was allowed to pick up our son. They have never called me when she picked him up or when his grandparents picked him up. Only me. It's not like I am unfamiliar. I drop him off and pick him up every day. Story 6. Being judged for talking to or helping other children. In any situation, it sometimes feels inappropriate to talk to another child outside of my own. Story 7. The number of times people have said it is weird to take my 5-year-old daughter into the men's restroom to use the bathroom is surprising. Usually, these comments come from women. I am not sure what they think is going on in there. I am a man in my 40s and cannot recall any time I have actually seen a man's genitals in the restroom. Story 8. I'm not babysitting my children. I am their dad. That always gets on my nerves, and nobody would ever say that to my wife. Story 9. My daughter danced hula for years, and I was usually the only father taking her to practice. I learned to keep my eyes on my phone to avoid dirty looks from the mothers. Her teacher actually appreciated that I was there because I was always asked to move furniture. My daughter also joined a Chinese dance troupe one year, but they would not allow me into the studio. Mothers were welcome, but no fathers. This was when the dancers were about 7 to 9 years old, and they performed in public at the local malls. Story 10. I cannot speak for women, but I do not believe that single mothers with babies are casually asked where the father is. I stand ready to be corrected. However, with my first daughter, I would routinely go out with her to give the mother a break. Other women would often glance around, stare at me, and then ask, "Where is the mother?" In a moment of pettiness, I told one woman that the mother died in childbirth. "It is just me and the baby now." She left quickly. Story 11. When my child was in daycare, they would make fun crafts for her mother on Mother's Day. For Father's Day, we were told to send in a picture, which they would paste on a card and send back. As my child got older and I had to go shopping with her alone, I started to get frowns and scowls instead of smiles and compliments. Babies and toddlers get all the smiles. Bigger kids get weird looks. Just this past Saturday, we were at a home improvement store buying items we desperately needed to fix around the house, with her parents visiting. The cashier asked my wife if this was her Mother's Day present. My wife didn't understand how I could be offended by that, which hurt a little. I feel awkward being at the playground because women don't stop staring. I actively play with my child because they don't always like to play alone or with other kids. I'm not sure if that makes it worse or not, but it distracts me from the stares. Maybe I'm just really good looking and don't know it. God forbid I try to take a photo of my child when we're out and about. If I take my child out for lunch or dinner when my wife is out of town, people act like I'm a divorcee and only have my child on weekends. Birthday parties are brutal when there are no other fathers there because none of the mothers will talk to me. I've tried to join conversations, but people have smiled and walked away. Trying to buy kids' clothes gets me weird looks or comments. Often, workers appear out of nowhere to follow me or fail to believe I'm buying clothes for my child. For example, my wife bought a shirt for in-store pickup. When I went to get it, the woman cashier told me I needed to be listed as a pickup person. I was and told her so. She didn't believe me until I showed the email proving it. Then she asked for my ID. I gave it to her. She asked me to confirm my name and address, to which I replied loudly so the nearby manager could hear. My name and address are on the ID. The address matches the billing address for the order. It's a $4 shirt that is going to get worn once. She then handed me my ID to retrieve the shirt. The manager came over and asked if I needed help. I didn't. Thanks. Story 12. Bodily autonomy. Daughters have legal protection from non-therapeutic genital cutting, while boys and intersex children have none, even though the Equal Protection Clause guarantees equal protection. This is not uncommon but needs to be said anyway. Story 13. Uncle here. I get criticized for having a little blonde girl as my niece, and she dares to sit on her uncle's shoulders. Story 14. I think there is a general lack of appreciation for most fathers. Granted, I have a lot of bias here because of the experience I have seen with one friend of mine, but there is this default assumption that, of course, mothers are doing more work and, of course, most fathers are slackers who are not pulling their weight. It is really unpleasant in my opinion. I always knew I was a person without children, but if I were undecided, the negative treatment of fathers that I see would push me to the no camp. Story 15. I don't know if it's a double standard, but when our daughter was an infant, every time she cried, my wife would rush in to try and console her. She was a concerned mother, so I let her follow her maternal instinct. One time, our daughter was having a bad episode, and I was trying to console her with little success. I don't remember what my wife was doing, but she reached for our daughter, frustrated, and scolded me for not knowing how to calm her down and said that she always has to. I pulled back and responded that it was because she never gives me a chance to learn. She reflected and let me handle our daughter more, especially during her episodes. Story 16. Work begrudgingly allows me time off, either using paid time off or unpaid leave, whenever I need to take my children to get vaccines or a doctor's visit. My wife does not drive yet, and with 2 children under 2 years old, it is impossible to take taxis along with a stroller and 2 car seats. Why does your stay-at-home wife not take time to do it? Meanwhile, I have found that many working mothers will leave work early for anything related to their children, expect to be paid, and rarely face pushback for it, which is how it should be. Family comes first. Story 17. Receiving praise for doing normal parenting tasks. I was very involved in my children's appointments in life, and it made me uncomfortable being praised for doing things all fathers should be doing with their kids. Story 18. The alienation issue. Mothers, especially new mothers, and sometimes their families occasionally alienate the father from their children. It is estimated that around 10% of new fathers experience this, although there is no data available on the topic. Story 19. I think there is a general lack of appreciation for most fathers. Granted, I have a lot of bias here because of the experience I have seen with one friend of mine, but there is a default assumption that, of course, mothers are doing more work and, of course, most fathers are slackers who are not pulling their weight. It is really unpleasant in my opinion. I always knew I was a no-kids person, but if I were undecided, the negative comments about fathers that I see would push me to the no camp. Story 20. My wife is a great mother but simply does not bake. All through elementary and high school, I was the one baking cookies, brownies, lemon bars, cupcakes, and more for our children to take to school. Invariably, the teachers and mothers would praise my wife. Story 21. Parent-Teacher Association and School Volunteering. The expectation is that the mothers all get together and run the Parent-Teacher Association, volunteer to be the class mother, organize the fundraiser, etc. I am often the only man at any Parent-Teacher Association meeting. Story 22. Anecdotally, the men's change room handicap buttons near the pools in my area break frequently and take a while to get fixed. It seems minor until you are trying to carry a baby, hold a toddler's hand, and carry a bag of swimming gear. That said, very few men bring multiple children without a parent, so it makes sense to prioritize fixing that door a bit lower. Additionally, it is partly up to men to report when the door is not working. Perhaps men are too stubborn to say anything. I have not reported it myself. Story 23. Whenever I had the children out without Mrs. Ocelot, I was always treated as a kind of super dad. For example, we would all go into a convenience store, and the women there would say I am a great dad for taking the kids out, even though we were there to get cigarettes. A man who shows up is a hero, while a woman who works hard taking care of the children is expected. We all know about being the dad at the playground. The children run off instantly when they see the swings or slide. You approach slowly over the hill, find a bench in the shade, and sit down. All the mothers put down their Starbucks or Stanley cups and call emergency services, then just watch you waiting. Usually, it takes one of my children running up to me calling me daddy before some of the mothers start relaxing a little. Story 24. My single father was blamed for burning me with cigarettes. He was my only parent, and I had a skin condition that started as cigarette-style dots but then spread out into large patches on my skin, similar to vitiligo. He had to endure years of random people assuming he abused me in public. I remember women approaching us and asking if he was burning me. I don't believe this would have happened if he were my mother. Story 25. This isn't parenting, but I am a 24-year-old man who has a prominent bulge that is always noticed because people think I have an erection. I love children. They are adorable, funny, sweet, and I enjoy making them smile. However, I am often seen as a creep who is attracted to kids because I look like I have an erection when I do not. I work in retail, and many of the regular customers were initially very cautious about me being near their children, which I understand. Eventually, they realized that is just how I am and stopped literally pulling their children away and giving me threatening looks. If I had a child, I imagine this situation would be worse. Story 26. Pretty rampant on Reddit. Man works, woman is a stay-at-home mother, but spending time with the baby, changing diapers when at home, doing all the shopping, occasionally cooking, etc., is considered doing the bare minimum as a father. To summarize, do not marry a woman from Reddit. Story 27. I have been willing and comfortable with buying feminine products for my partners since my first real relationship. I have not always gotten exactly the brand or whatever, but I have always gotten a usable product and never felt non-masculine about it. When my daughter got hers during our weekend, I told her we were going to the store. I swear there was a woman lingering in the aisle about to explain the whole thing to me. She is a young adult now, And this past week, I went down to her college town to spend the day. She asked if I would take her to a job interview so she did not have to have her boyfriend leave work. Of course, no worries. Afterwards, we went for dinner. She was in business clothes and I was business casual. The waitress brought us drink menus. My daughter is just short of 19, and the waitress asked if we were sharing, basically giving me the impression that she thought I was on a date, organic or professional, with a much younger woman. My current girlfriend's son is a foot taller than her and with a full beard looks older than he is, and no one has ever acted like they were a couple. Story 28. I feel so lucky to live where I do. I completely believe you all, but the stories about being seen as a creep in the park or treated with suspicion are unbelievable. That has never happened to me or anyone I know. I see many fathers everywhere I go, and no one thinks anything of it. Story 29. Where are you that has changing stations in the women's restroom but not the men's restroom? They have been in both restrooms in my 25 years of being a dad. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.